We're back. How you guys doing? Welcome to the Seekers Chronicles Paranormal Historians. Got it right tonight. Where history meets where the history meets the paranormal. And we got a great show coming tonight. Um, very great guest. We met him a couple times. He's a very nice guy, and you're gonna like what he has. I know Jenny and Kim does. You know, he's an author, and they read his books, and fangirl's gonna go crazy tonight.
Oh,
So
tonight, Kim will be the fangirl.
I don't know. I might be me tonight. Yeah.
I think she may beat me tonight.
Between the
I'm
two
gonna
of
let her.
he's ready for your questions. So we'll see what happens. Okay. I know this weekend we all didn't do much because of the weather. We got dumped snow on us. Even Queens. It's like, we haven't had this much snow in a long time. And it's been in 20 degrees. So we still got plenty of snow out there.
So cold.
And of course, they didn't shovel to Sunday night over here. So we couldn't do anything. And it was all plowed in, and it was bad. But you deal with it. Hey, I dealt with worse than this.
Yes.
You know, so it happens. It happens. So
Yeah.
I didn't have to shovel because I paid maintenance for that, and they shovel for me.
Nice.
Ooh.
You guys had to shovel.
Anthony,
I
do you have
shoveled.
a skull in the background there? Is that a skull? What is that? Why do you have? What is this? Has he always had this in the background?
We talked about this.
Have
I
we?
asked you what that was.
Is it a deer?
I can't.
I have no idea.
I can't see it. Oh,
I
think
know.
it is
Get
a
it?
deer.
I have no idea.
Or a sheep, or it's a it's an herbivore. Okay. Sorry.
It's an herbivore like me.
I don't know if I've ever seen that in your background.
That's what Jenny looks like under that skin.
That's what I look like.
Perfect.
Jenny's skull. That's a Jenny skull.
Oh my god.
Bright and shiny.
Overall.
No
Terrifying.
snow, Mary Beth. I feel like all of the United States got snow.
Yeah, I think so.
Well, I know Ron didn't get snow. He didn't get any snow.
No.
Arizona. If it snows in Arizona, you know we're going to have a big issue with that.
Well, it does snow there sometimes, but
well, not like this.
No, not like this all over.
If it snows in Arizona, that means that hell froze over.
Exactly.
Which seems like it might be doing it soon in this country. But back to the subject of the paranormal and everything else. So, Jenny, do you want to announce
We got
the guest?
fun tonight.
Huh?
This is gonna be so fun tonight.
I know.
You want to do it, Kim, or you want me to do it?
No, you can do it,
give
Jenny.
you the honors.
No, it's all right. I'm excited for our guest because this is right up everybody's alley. So.
Oh yeah, for sure. Okay. Well, I'm gonna go all official tonight. Usually I just do it off the cuff, but tonight I'm actually gonna read. So sorry, I'm having contact problems. Don't mind me. Anyone who wears contact lenses understands. Especially like as the day goes on. Tonight we have Andrew Warburton. Yay! He's an author. He grew up in Bristol, England, and he has a master's in creative writing. He's published poems and short stories, and he lived in Massachusetts for years, which is kind of how we connected with him through our friend Sam Baltruzis. And he now lives in Rhode Island. And tonight we're going to be talking about a couple of his books that Kim and I read. New York Fairies was the first one I read of his. And he also wrote New England Fairies, A History of Little People of the Hills and Forests. And he blogs about fairies on fairiesofnewengland.com. Please welcome Andrew.
Which I have that on audio now.
Nice.
New England.
Hello.
I know, you got the official.
Hello. I can't hear you guys. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
We can hear you.
Okay, I'm going to try and leave and come back in again and see if that resets it. Okay.
Sure.
Okay. Do what you got to
Sure.
do.
We'll talk about you while you're gone.
Honestly, I don't blame him because I literally logged on like 30 seconds before our show tonight because I couldn't log on to my camera. I couldn't log on to my audio. It was just blank. Multiple.
What happened to me last week?
Thanks, Anthony.
Yeah.
You need to take your internet stuff and give it back to your son.
Okay.
He's good with that.
You know what happened? I was knocked off, but he came in. He goes, "Oh, all you can do is put a password in." What password?
What? Anyway, I had issues tonight too logging on. So I wonder if it's just the snow.
Yeah, you're not alone, Andrew.
Yeah, I can hear you now. I don't know what happened.
Great.
I never have. Well, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Welcome to the fun.
We enjoy the paranormal and the history.
Yeah.
Who's here?
Hey, Frankie.
Yeah, you're getting a lot of hellos.
Yeah, we're getting a lot of people coming on for you tonight.
Awesome. You deserve it.
Yeah. Let me show. I got your books here. I got pictures of your books. I just want to show the audience.
Yeah, me too.
That one. They all got
thoroughly
the book.
Thoroughly recommend.
That's the new.
Because you guys are all near in that area, right? I feel like the New England book gets kind of talked about a little more than the New York one. I don't know why, but
we're New Yorkers. Hey, we all got to stick together here. Yay.
Yeah.
Yeah, but in New York is perfect for Anthony. I mean, you definitely mentioned, we'll get to it, but you mentioned areas where he has definitely been and lives.
Well, right. So I think, the first story I think is from Queens, actually, isn't it? Which is where he is right now.
We're in Queens.
Is it the Cavalry? Is that what it's called?
Calvary Cemetery. You must know Calvary.
Yeah, that's on Queens Boulevard, not too far from you. That's actually the biggest cemetery in Queens, and there's the Godfather where they shoot the scene in the cemetery when they're burying people, I think the father. It's shot right in Calvary. You can see in the background the overpass that goes from Long Island Expressway to BQE.
Okay.
So it's right there.
Yeah, that's like a Victorian cemetery, isn't it? Kind of lots of big above ground tombs and things and statues.
Yeah. Matter of fact, it's funny because we talked about cemeteries last week on the show.
We did. That was our topic.
That's one cemetery, yeah.
Haunted cemetery?
Yeah, because I'm in Queens and they don't know. I was, and the audience knows. I grew up around 9 cemeteries as a kid. So, of course, we spent time in the cemetery. Then I found out a fact that Queens has 500 cemeteries in it.
Really?
What?
Yeah.
Wow.
So, okay, let's get back to you.
Okay.
Your story. Enough with me. Everybody knows me by now. They're tired of hearing me talk. I know these two on the side of me are.
Well, so I'm glad that, thanks for, reading the book. I have a new one coming out this year called Fairies of Northern Appalachia. So I went down, I drove my car alone down to like Kentucky, West Virginia, and Pennsylvania is a big part of the book because it's Northern Appalachia. But yeah, it's definitely a different flavor of like stories down there than up here, I'd say. Like a lot of it was a lot of belief in fairies or in like magic and things like that. They survived there in a kind of pure form. Whereas because it was so isolated, the hills in that area. So yeah, it's been really interesting to research those.
Yeah, the folklore of the Appalachia is deep, multicultural, and it's also flavored, which you probably already experienced, is a lot of the people have had experiences. So it's not even just folklore; it's folklore with like real experience backing each other up. So that's really interesting. So Andrew, how did you get into writing these lovely books about fairies? How did you get into this?
Well, so I guess I remember hearing stories from my parents about like the pixies in the mines in Cornwall. So Cornwall is like this very lovely part of England in the southwest. Some people say it's not even England, like they just say it's Cornwall. It's not really part of England because it was they had their own language for like a long time. They didn't adopt English. And so they're kind of a Celtic nation. So they had also a lot of like stories about fairies. And obviously mining was a big deal in Cornwall. They had a lot of tin mines, so a lot of they have a lot of stories about like Tommy knockers.
Oh
I don't
yeah.
know. Well, so Tommy knockers is actually an American term. They wouldn't have called
Right.
them Tommy knockers. They would have called them knockers, or
Mhm.
knackers. So they were like these little like pixies basically who lived in underground, and they would warn miners if there was about to be like a gas explosion. They would make knocking sounds in the shafts.
Whoa.
Yeah, so that was really my first exposure to any kind of like fairy stuff, And then as you get older, and I was like read like whatever, like Lord of the Rings and things like that. And like the elves are just they were really I remember, yeah, just really loving the elves. And then I kind of put all that aside and I kind of thought I'd grown out of it for years and I wasn't really interested in anything like that. And it was only when I'd moved to America and I saw this story about the Mohegans in eastern Connecticut, and they managed to stop like a private housing company from building a housing development on their hill, which obviously to them it's sacred land. And the reasoning that they were able to stop it, they said, was that they didn't want to kind of disturb the little people who lived under the hill. And
Wow.
so that's where I learned about fairy folklore, or little people folklore in America. And that's when I
Mm.
started, obviously it's been around for centuries, but that's when I first started taking an interest in it. And I thought, no one else has sort of written books about this. So I thought I would do it and bring it all to light. And a lot of it has really been forgotten.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I think with the advent of television and radio, people stopped sharing. Like families used to share with each other in front of the fire, stories, and
Yeah. Yeah.
they heard more because they weren't listening to the TV. So they heard sounds at night, and then they obviously kind of said that these sounds, like it was the banshee or it was whatever. So yeah, it's been forgotten. So I'm trying to resuscitate it, I suppose. Well,
Yeah. I mean,
Love it.
your New England book. Like I listened to
uh,
some. Like I said, it's I got it on Audible,
yeah,
and I
Joe
started listening to
Jameson.
some of it, and I thought it was interesting how like the little people, like we call leprechauns, they were because they were little people, they were fairies, and all it was all in the same category. And I did. Do you think it came over with a lot of the Europeans, or because it sounds like Scotland believes in Ireland and all those. You think those tales of they came over with them, and maybe the fairies came over with them, or you think they were here already? Well, you
Um,
always
I think the indigenous little people were here already, but
okay.
the but
That's true. You did mention that.
but the uh yeah, definitely like French Canadians brought down lots of stories about little people, lutins or lutin, who would live. They were sort of like gnomes with red caps and long beards, and they would sort of live in a farmer's barn, or they would sometimes even take up home in farmers' houses and like cause chaos, like they break things. And so yeah, definitely French Canadians did. The Cornish again brought the Tommyknocker stories, and also Marblehead, Massachusetts. It's a really
Mm-hmm.
big place for Cornish folklore. So they brought a lot of stories about pixies. It's kind of interesting. There was one place that I found out about called the Three Sisters. It was in Marblehead in a place. It was these three glacial boulders, and it was in a part of Marblehead that was considered like the outskirts of town, like kind of wilderness at the time. but now it's like pretty much in the middle of the built-up city. But that was a place where apparently the pixies lived. Kind of because it was, because it was considered wild, and these boulders that their pixies, I guess, could hide. So you can still go to the spot, but they actually removed the boulders. But yeah, that's another example of the Cornish bringing over, and then definitely the Scots Irish who came to Appalachia. They brought a lot of belief in fairies. It kind of changed. It didn't stay quite the same. And then the other one is the Pennsylvania Dutch. They brought a lot of belief and superstitions over as well. But often you find in America that when the immigrants come over, they believed in fairies, but then quite quickly it changes, and what they would have said was fairies, they now call them ghosts or witches, because for some reason Americans just really believed in witches and ghosts way more than fairies. I guess that probably makes sense to you.
Yeah, the Tommyknockers in the mines, they feel are spirits, and that's how I know Tommyknockers. I heard the expression that they're in the mine and they do knock when there's going to be a collapse or something like that, or whatever. And now you're saying they're fairies, so that's
that's
the first
interesting.
time I'm hearing that, which is a cool
Okay.
fact.
Well, it's interesting you say that it's ghosts, because back in Cornwall there were two theories. There was one that they were pixies, and another one was that they were the souls of Jewish people who'd been forced into the mines when the Romans came over, and then they died, and then they were the ones causing these knockings. In America, the ghost theory sort of predominated, and it was, but there is still plenty of evidence. The Cornish Americans in Pennsylvania, like the Schuylkill Valley, in the bituminous mines, they did think the Tommyknockers were like little elves. So there were some stories about elves and fairies in the mines.
Well, I just wanted to say that, so when I got the book, obviously, and I read the book, loved it. And actually, I think as an American, I actually thought I was going to be reading about the fairies, the bright, shining, because in our culture, especially in Disney, they've completely changed the idea of even pixies, right? So and nowadays in our paranormal investigating, we'll often say if it's an odd shaped orb or different colored orb, we might call it a fairy presence or a fae. And so I thought I was getting into something like that, but I got something even better, because I want to commend you, Andrew, on your depth of going into these stories, because I enjoy the history of all of this too. And I know how hard it is to get evidence of stories or events that may or may not have happened, or they did happen. So actually, as I was reading this, I was just this is incredible. So you go into not only the folklore, and it's not just hairy fairy, everything is amazing. You talk about hobgoblins, goblins, not gnomes,
imps.
Not just imps. And imps. But then you're coming back to the actual stories in the newspapers, the records, and my little heart could not have.
There is the finding out the primary sources is kind of hard, because with Tommyknockers there was a point where I'd given up. I was like, I guess I'm talking about Northern Appalachia now, but for that book, I thought that maybe it's just people say that people believed in Tommyknockers, but they never really did. But actually, and I'd almost given up on finding the evidence, but then I did find the original stories. But so they definitely did. But then when I went to Pennsylvania, I met this PA Dutch fifth generation coal miner, and I asked him, "Do you have any Tommyknocker stories?" And he was like, "Okay, I'll tell you after the tour." And then when I spoke to him, he was like, "Oh, we don't believe in all that bullshit." He was, he was like, he was like, "My grandfather never believed in all that bullshit." It was like some people did, but they just told those stories to scare people on the outside. So,
oh my goodness, That sounds like I'm embarrassed to say, as a Dutch person, that sounds like a Dutch person.
Are
It's
you
very strange.
are you Dutch or
Yeah.
Pennsylvania Dutch?
No,
Pennsylvania,
I'm
oh,
Dutch from
Oh, okay.
Amsterdam. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Very
Yeah.
cool.
She's
Yeah.
our dumb.
Yeah. So
And I'm Irish, and I actually learned from your book
Okay.
that legend has, I didn't know this actually, that wearing green was actually a sign was actually not a good association of, was associated with bad luck or death. Yeah.
Yeah, that changed, didn't it? Like in Ireland in the 19th century, they wouldn't have worn green because it had a bad kind of a bad, what's the word, like a bad juju.
association.
Yeah,
It's
bad
association.
juju. Yes.
Wow.
So
Oh, more
uh,
than that.
because
Okay.
because it was also associated with the fairies. Like fairies would
Oh.
always wear green. So but now, yeah, it's like Irish pride, isn't it? It's
Yeah.
Mhm.
and I wonder
Oh,
if
yeah.
that it's probably has that gone back over the Atlantic. I've never been to Ireland except the airport, so I don't know if the
Mhm.
wearing green has gone back over the Atlantic.
Yeah,
trying to
I don't know.
think
it
It's
of
in
might be American
it's in
thing.
their flag, isn't it?
American
football
thing.
uniforms. Like, what does Ireland? Yeah, it did. I'm trying to think of the World Cup. I'm thinking
Yeah.
of uniforms, right? Like in Ireland, I think
Well,
there's
they wear
green
it.
in their
They
uniform.
wear it. I mean, it's in their flag. It's in their national flag,
Yeah.
isn't it?
Yeah, it
Yeah, I
is.
guess they
Yeah.
would technically represent it. I don't know. It's a great
They would
question.
use it for sure.
Yeah.
But that's one thing I feel like it's kind of a stereotype. Oh, fairies wear green, but it's actually true. So it's not just a stereotype.
Some
My
of them
cousin
are.
was in Ireland, and when he came back home, I'm like, because that's one place I wouldn't mind going. Ireland and
Yeah.
Scotland, those places. Plus, for investigating, I would love to see those castles. But my cousin went there, and I'm like, can you? How was Ireland? How do you guys? He goes, I describe it in one word: green. He goes,
Oh yeah.
everywhere is grass, trees. You can walk
Right.
out on the. All you see is grass and trees. Everything is green out
Isn't it the
there.
Emerald Isle or something like that?
Yeah.
Emerald or
Yeah, something
what
like
is
that.
Yes. Yeah.
So I thought that was pretty cool. And I was like, I guess that's why they wear green. You know?
Someone pointed out that Stephen King has a book named The Tommyknockers. Have you read it?
Yeah. I haven't. Maybe I should have watched the movie.
Yeah,
There's a movie of it too. Is it good?
Yeah.
it's a good
Yeah.
movie. Yes,
Well,
And they're
Yeah.
ghosts.
Stephen King is always good.
Are
Yeah.
they
Definitely
ghosts? The
Stephen King's.
Tommyknockers?
Hmm.
Are they ghosts in that? The Tommyknockers?
Yeah.
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 Oh, I mean, I don't know in Stephen King book, but I know that, even in the like paranormal shows like Ghost Mine, they had Tommyknockers that were spirits.
Mm.
Yeah, I think that's more common here.
Mhm.
Yeah. And in
That was in the
California.
Pacific Northwest. So,
Right.
I mean,
yeah.
like I said, with the Tommy Knocker thing, I heard from it was spirits of maybe fallen of people that worked in the mine and stuff.
Like that.
And,
Yeah.
and it's maybe that's how things changed too when it came to United Americas. Well, well, it wasn't the United States back when it first came over, but when it came over, maybe within the translation between the language. I know what you speak. They speak
Gotcha.
English too, but between the brogues and what we speak here, and I
Yeah.
know when we came on, they changed my name on Ellis Island because of the Italian accent, and they couldn't make it out. And they changed my name. They took the C out and stuff. So maybe it was within the translation. That's how we picked up. Oh, maybe it's Ghost. You know.
Definitely.
So,
Yeah.
Could
you
be.
know,
Yeah. And I guess the thing is, though, is that in Ireland, I think in the past, fairies and ghosts would have been very related, very closely associated. So, for instance, if someone in your family died, there are reports of people saying, oh, they're over there with the fairies in that hill. So it's almost like the land of the realm of the fairies is almost a bit like purgatory. So it's where the dead go.
Yeah,
So that was a strong belief, I think, in Ireland, and then that idea did come over to America a little bit. So there's one story I found in it was in Scranton, Pennsylvania, and like it was in my, I think it was a miner died, and then the local Irish people said that if you went to a back road on the edge of Scranton, you would find the fairies there in a group, and they would have the dead miner with them. So clearly, like this idea that the fairies and the dead are very, it did the Irish brought it over here, but I guess it just maybe that idea didn't survive for very long because, like you said, it's like things mainly just became ghosts. But it did. It was here for a while, I think.
That's interesting.
Yeah, and I find it very much associated, like when we call something fairy-like, it's very closely related to the land. And you mentioned that a bunch of times in the book. A lot of these tales are talked about with the land, whether it's like the amphitheater, that was cool, and or rock groups. And then, well, like nowadays we just call it either gnomes. But I remember being in Maine. I'm actually from Massachusetts. I don't know where in Massachusetts you live, but I'm actually from Massachusetts and have gone up to Bar Harbor in Maine, and there's so much moss on the ground, and we would call them fairy hills or like fairy knolls. And we would make like these little like fairy huts inside these knolls and stuff like that. But there's another fairy place that I don't know if you've heard of in New Jersey called the Fairy Cave. I don't know if you've heard of the Fairy Cave.
Yeah, someone when I was at the Hollow actually with you guys that someone came up to me and told me about that. But I don't know what the backstory is. But yeah, I need to go. And I was with Sam Baltrusis, and I was like, should we go? He was like, oh, it's a little far, so another time. But yeah, what's the story with the Fairy Cave?
Yeah, it's in such an interesting area. I actually did a Ghost History Medium episode there where I go and I mediumistically read it and then do the history and stories on it. It's got a fascinating legend with it. So it's this old cave that they've actually found like prehistoric animal bones in there, like giant beaver bones and teeth in the area. But it's by a swamp, which is another association with the fairies and the lights and stuff like that. It's in Jenny Jump State Forest, which also has its own history onto it. There's a legend that a woman either jumped or fell off or died in the area. And it's on the road called Shades of Death Road. There's like a lot of legend in that area.
That sounds excellent.
Yeah, and lights, people see lights. It's a Native American area. They have a ton of arrowheads that have been found in the area. It's a really, really interesting place.
I have to go, and I could make it into a blog because for things that I didn't get to put in my book, I can always put it on my website.
Yeah, right. Maybe you and Kim go someday. You, Kim, and Sam.
Yeah. It's very easy to access.
Is it? And it's New Jersey. And you guys are in New Jersey, right?
Yeah,
New Jersey.
Yeah.
New Jersey.
I thought you were.
New York.
New York.
Yeah.
So that's interesting. Yeah, maybe you guys can make a field trip out of it. A day trip.
I wonder why it's called
that whole area is amazing.
Is it?
Yeah, it really is.
Gosh, I found an article about the gentleman who owned the property last because they built a dam on it. They made this little pond in front of it as well. And there is a story of why it's called the Fairy Cave, and I just can't. Jenny Jump traumatized me as a child.
I know, right? Everyone.
It is wild there. Yeah, yeah, that's funny.
What is it? What's the story of Jenny Jump then? Did she kill herself?
Jenny, do you know the story or the legend?
I want to hear it.
No, I don't know. I'm not from New Jersey.
Oh, well, okay. I mean, neither am I, but so the theory is, Jenny Jump State Forest, there was a young girl who was in a wagon. Gosh, I have this written down. It's probably in the 1800s or late 1700s. And there's a few different versions of it, and the few different versions have been documented. So it's not really clear what actually happened, but the story keeps getting told on. There's a few that they were ambushed by the Lenape in the area, and her dad told her to jump off of the wagon, I guess it would have been. Yeah. And so she jumped, and there's theories that she jumped to her death. there's theories that she didn't jump to her death, but that was like the saying that was like, oh, Jenny jump, you know what I mean? Like, yeah. So that's how it kind of started. And or bandits, that's another way I've heard it told, is that there's bandits that came to the wagon, and her dad said, Jenny jump. And yeah, I can send you that stuff. I have it somewhere in my archive. Yeah.
Has anyone tried to like communicate with Jenny at that place, or?
What did I do there? So I went there and I actually met a Native American there, and he was considered the guardian of the cave. And I actually saw in my mind a very old, very ancient, prehistoric Native Americans there, but he was more recent. Anyway, and he was basically just a guardian of the space, kind of like how I guess some fairies would be guardian, but to me, anyway, there was a light that showed up over the lake, the pond, and many people say that they see a light over the pond, which is another very common thing in New Jersey too, especially like northern New Jersey. Have I communicated? No, I did not communicate with Jenny. We could try, but I don't see. Here's the thing: it's like I don't even know if she died there. Like that's the thing too. Is like we don't really know if it's true or not.
It's legend, yeah.
That's interesting. You say Native American was guarding the cave after Andrew said that that tribe that had the fairies that lived underground, they were called. So it is a Native American type of legend going back. So that's interesting that you said there was a Native American guarding the cave with the fairies.
It definitely, there's a lot. There are like indigenous stories about little people, I think, all over the United States, the different nations and tribes. And I don't know, some like English and American folklorists have tried to say, oh, well, it must have been us. We must have taught it to them, these stories. Like the Jesuits came over and was like maybe taught it, but it just seems unlikely because their stories are so like full and just so, and in many ways really quite different to our stories about fairies. They're similar, but like there's enough that's very strongly different that it seems to be its own tradition for sure, but
it's
like puckwudgies, right?
like
Those
puckwudgies,
those are a Native American small trickster.
I think Native Americans associate to a lot of these fae because before the Europeans came over and started doing all their violence and doing their stuff, I think they were more into the nature of the land. That's why they associate with it. Because I know there's things with Bigfoot that they associated with and different fays. And so maybe
I guess
they came over, the Europeans came over. Maybe that these things say, hey, they're too violent and they went underground or they just started hiding from us.
Right. There's one that came up in a talk I gave once and I had kind of a little interaction with a member in the audience. Because when you look at indigenous Native American stories about little people, the little people, they're often quite friendly, I'd say. They can be dangerous, but they often help members of the tribe, whether like little children who get lost in the woods, or hunters in the woods, things like that. But then when kind of European Americans or Americans of European descent, when we experience little people that we call things like puckwudgies, they're often very threatening. And they're covered in hair, they have glowing red eyes. And so I was sort of questioning, like, well, why did the original people who told these stories and experience these beings as friendly? But then when we start experiencing these beings, why do we experience them as kind of scary? So the woman sort of, I think she pointed out that, well, perhaps it's the indigenous nations were, they grow up, they're very used to the land. They know the land. The idea that other beings might be living in the land isn't scary to them. Whereas for us, somewhere like the Freetown State Forest, you know, the Bridgewater Triangle whole area.
Right.
Yes.
It's a big forest, and the idea that something might be living in there, we sort of automatically think, well, it can't be good, because why
Right.
would it be living in this dark, scary place? But
Yeah, I completely agree. I completely agree. We came to an unknown land. We, we're basically the non-indigenous people. We came to this land and we don't know it. So yeah, I would definitely imagine that we would come in and have more fear-based stories and interpretations. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
and maybe they can come to us scary and because they don't trust us and they're trying to protect themselves.
That too, yeah, for sure.
That's why we scared. Maybe that's why they come out to us because they're not used to us and just get away from us, and they're going to do everything to scare us. As a paranormal investigator, we do that with spirits. We find spirits that try to get you out of the location and show themselves as something scary to you and everything, or tell you get out or whatever. But I feel that these creatures or whatever they want to be called, just are scared of us because I know our nature is to. If we discover these things, what are we going to do? We're going to catch them, and we're going to do autopsies on them to see what they're made of. So maybe
Right.
I mean, I think they're scared of. That's why they come to us as a scary kind of creature,
Right.
and maybe Native Americans too associate with them. We don't know.
Yeah, I think that there are friendly fairies that people have experiences with in the modern day, and but a lot of it is experienced as, you know, lights, like Kim, you mentioned, floating in the forest and things like that, or like little humanoids with wings surrounded by light. Um, People have had encounters with these beings in that, even in their bedroom, but also out in the woods. So there is, yeah, it's something interesting about the fact that the good experiences people have with fairies now seems to be that with small ones that are not threatening.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas in the past, you could have good experiences with fairies that were tall, you know, and beautiful. What does Adam say? That makes me think of them lights that are seen here in Texas, at a place called Martha out in the desert. Oh,
Cool. I didn't know that.
Hmm.
It's
But,
everywhere, which is really interesting. Like,
Texas.
not every legend is everywhere, but there are a few. To me, like growing up, I always had a negative association, like chaos and bad things. Like I associated fairies with banshees, with changelings, with things like that, like terrifying things, you know. And then
yeah.
Disney came along, right? And it was like, oh, not so bad, right? Like all fancy. But like growing up, my parents would talk about them as negative. You know, really
Yeah.
more, not necessarily scary, but chaotic. Like, you don't want that in your life kind of
Yeah.
thing. I guess it
Oh, like
depends, where you're
brownies?
from.
What's
Yeah.
that?
Eh,
Like, and Andrew, do you feel like
Not
that
really.
these things originate with explanations, right? We always, right? Like in Appalachia, everywhere, in Europe, in the
Yeah.
United States, we have stories that explain things, right?
Yes.
Like,
Yeah.
like the changeling is a really good example,
We should
right?
talk.
Like,
Yeah, we should talk about changelings.
yeah. I
Let's
mean,
do
there's
it.
that really powerful scene in the book Outlander, right? Where she
George
realizes that, the baby's been left.
Well, I didn't know that. What's that scene? I know it's set in Scotland, isn't it? But what happens there?
Yes, it is. I haven't seen it. I only read those books, but there's a really powerful scene because she's from, the 1900s. So she
Yeah.
goes back and there's a baby left in a tree, and it has died because someone has left it there because it's deformed or ill, right? I think it's ill in this case, and thinking that someone will change it out, for a healthy baby or a changeling. So, and as a nurse, as a combat nurse, she's devastated, kind of thing, knowing modern medicine, sort of thing. But, a long time ago, we didn't know anything, right? So,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
And
that still goes on in
changeling.
some countries anyway.
What's that?
That still goes on in some countries.
Well, the whole like thinking your child is sort of a witch or something,
Mm-hmm.
because they're
and then
disabled or ill.
yeah,
Yeah. They think it's some sort of bad spirits, or they don't associate with a baby that's affected or handicapped or anything, showing that your your line of people have defects in it. So
Mhm.
that's why they rather leave them out in the woods for the animals. You know,
Right.
Yeah,
some countries
Right.
still do that. They still do that. You know, they leave
it's
the babies
Wow.
out.
horrible.
It's sad,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
It is.
But I mean, there
It's
were
a
no
dark history.
explanations.
Sorry.
No, I mean it's just like anything else. There were no medical explanations, right? So they
Right.
had to make up something.
Yeah. So if someone sort of had a baby who had Down syndrome or something like that,
Yeah.
then yeah. And I
Or
mean, I
maybe
guess, and there are some sort of, aren't there some kind of uh, diseases where child development goes well for the first, say, year or so, and then or a few years, and then there's a sudden deterioration, and so it almost looks as if the child has been replaced. This is
Mm,
to the
right,
people who believe
right,
those things, but.
right.
Well, so yeah, and on the point of with changings, I guess the worst story in both my books is that story. I don't know because you read
Yeah.
it. Do you remember about Mary Now?
Hmm.
mm-hmm.
Yeah, she's not spoken about much. I'd be curious to know what you think about her story. So I guess I'll quickly say who she was. She was
Yeah.
she was an Irish woman who lived on the Upper West Side in the 1860s. Um, she had a son called John, who was 4 years old. She had a husband called Matthias, who he was about to go away to fight in the Civil War in Washington. And so he'd gone to, I think, Rikers Island or Roosevelt Island, somewhere like that.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
And
either one.
and yeah, leaving her alone with the baby. And there was someone in her building someone who used to live in her building told her that fairies were living in the building, and that apparently convinced her that her child had been taken and replaced with a fairy baby. So she kind of fell back on the old ideas from Ireland about what you do to to bring your child back, which is you use iron because iron is effective against all supernatural
Right.
beings, including fairies. But if you heat the iron, like she got a spade, an iron spade, she heated it, and she placed John onto the heated spade, and then like inflicted such bad injuries that he died sort of about a week later. So
Mm.
yeah, it's a really, really tragic story, and we don't know what was going through her mind. She was probably mentally ill, I would have thought. Just because, it's one thing to believe. I think I kind of wrote about this in my blog. You can believe that fairies sometimes steal children. That's not
Mhm.
a mental illness to believe that. That was a culturally based belief. But
Yeah.
Mhm.
to believe that the fairies have actually stolen your child and replaced him, and that your child is a fairy, that's when it kind of goes over into delusion, right? Yeah, it is
Right.
horrible, and so I told my mum about this story, and she was I'm not sure if you should put that in your book because this is not stories about folklore anymore or paranormal. This is kind of mental illness, but I don't know. I still think it's fairy folklore because
Mhm.
Totally.
her delusion was based on fairy folklore, and
Yeah,
she'd
her
been
belief was that's what she believed, and she probably brought up that a child can be changed, you know,
right.
into a fairy, and by her belief like that, she put the baby through this, she killed the baby pretty much. So
Mhm.
it's same thing like the witch trials. You have that belief, the religious belief,
Yes,
and the whole mob goes against them and they burn them. So it's kind of on that same
Right.
thing.
it is.
You got to
Yeah.
believe. You got to go with your belief. Not that the people that burned the witches were all sick in the head. They just had a weird belief in something, and that's what they were taught through the years. So, in this case, the woman had that belief. It doesn't make it right.
Mhm.
I seen Jenny's face when she said what she did to her. And
Yeah.
I feel the same way. And I know Kim, when it comes to children, we're very, you know, we're very
Yeah.
sensitive. But yeah,
Right.
so it was her belief, and that's the way she was brought up, which is back then the right way to be brought up. Nowadays, you think of that and like how horrible. So I think it was good that you actually put in the book and showed
Mhm.
a way of somebody would believe back then. You know, that was
Yeah.
good.
Yeah, I think it was very pertinent.
Yeah.
And it is a great question, Andrew. This line of folklore
Mm-hmm.
and truth,
Yeah.
because folklore begins somewhere from
Right.
something, from some belief. And I mean, ghosts and spirits could be considered stories in folklore, but like we've all experienced things that we can't explain.
Mhm.
So, we've
Mhm.
all seen lights that we can't explain. And, I don't know if you've heard in the Appalachia, the whistle in the woods, a lot of people
Yeah.
report. I mean, I've heard in the middle of the night, sorry, middle of the
Mhm.
night, out in the woods at dusk, miles from people, I heard whistling. I have
Yeah.
no explanation. This was not a place somebody would be camping out in the woods, but I mean, it was a flat out tune in the woods. So, like, I know that there's stuff. So, I mean, I don't know. It's hard to say. Did she see fairies? Maybe she did. Maybe they did do
Mhm.
something to the baby. I don't think they caused a congenital disorder from birth, but
Right.
I don't know.
There was no
Right.
comment in the newspapers about the baby being, having any condition or anything. So I think the baby was normal.
Oh, then
Yeah.
yeah,
Well, I shouldn't
yeah.
say
Well,
normal. That's not a very nice
then
word,
that
is
might
it?
be
I
different.
know what you mean.
Uh,
Yeah, like just
Right.
typical. But yeah, I mean,
Yeah, and
it's
it
hard.
could
It's
be
hard to put yourself in that frame of mind. But
Yeah.
yeah, it's
Yeah.
another world, isn't it? It's really sort of a pre-modern world where people really believe those things. It's a
yeah,
real, it's an,
yeah,
it's you might call it a survival of a prior time. That, and it just popping up in New York City. But it's not the only. It's
mm,
not really the only example of this type of strong belief in fairies in a modern American city because
Mhm.
there's the one in Scranton where they thought that the fairies could be seen on the outskirts of Scranton. And then there's also a case of a man in Pittsburgh, this man called James Devoy, who was also an Irishman. And it was like 1889 or something. And he heard the banshee
mm,
screaming outside or wailing outside of his bedroom window, and he spent like the rest of the week holed up in his room because his father had heard the banshee, his people in his family had heard it, and he became convinced that he was going to die. So he just kind of he wouldn't leave his room, he wouldn't go to his job. He finally kind of went to the cathedral, and I suppose sought consolation from a priest. But uh, yeah, so it's another example of like strong belief in fairies being kind of connected to, like today we'd call that anxiety, we'd call it what's the word where you're afraid to leave your house, like something like that.
agoraphobia. Right.
Agoraphobia, yeah, we'd call it all
Right.
these things, wouldn't we?
wow.
Mhm.
Right. But it's interesting that so many of them are like harbingers, right? Like we have
Yeah,
like the Tommy
harbinger.
knockers, the banshee, right? And even
Mm.
even in South America, I believe banshee's legend is pretty prevalent.
Is that right? I didn't know that.
Yeah, yeah. I friends of mine from South America have always talked about it.
So the
Yeah.
banshee, I'd say, is the number one fairy from Europe that has been heard in or seen in the United States. It's probably the most common one.
Mm.
And the theory as to why, because I could like go through. There's one. I'll just quickly go through where the banshee's been heard that I know of. There
Yeah.
was one in like Manchester, New Hampshire. It was a Sister of Mercy, a nun. She heard the banshee, and this was like 2008, I think. And she
Oh wow.
then wrote home to say like, oh, I heard the banshee. Is everything okay? And they said that her cousin had died. So
Oh,
I didn't put her in my book, which is a shame because I found it too late. Then the other one is James Devoy. And then we have lots of cases from this place called Lake Como. It's a tiny town in Pennsylvania where apparently there was a whole culture of storytelling about the banshee, and the whole community would hear the banshee. And then it wasn't just, it was connected to a family, but other families heard it too. So yeah, I guess I was just sharing that just to kind of point out that for some reason the banshee is the most common fairy, because you know that, but not some people think banshee is a ghost, but actually the word banshee, it means fairy woman. Because sometimes people are surprised when I say that, and they're like, "Oh, I thought a banshee was a spirit." Well, it is a
No, I
spirit.
learned that in your book. It means fairy woman. Yeah, I learned that in your book.
Great.
Yeah,
I didn't know that either until I read the book about it.
Well, she's
Interesting.
beautiful too.
Interesting.
say
I was
why-
in Manchester, New Hampshire in 2008. So that's weird.
You were,
Yes.
were. That's crazy.
I was staying there. Yeah, actually, right. The second oldest house in Manchester, New Hampshire, I was staying in and actually had my first paranormal experience in. So that's
so
weird.
weird.
It's very weird.
That is weird.
wow.
But yeah, the banshee definitely, like when you say banshee, and I don't know if it's just because all the stories that I've heard, like instantly the hair in the back of my neck goes up. It's
Yeah.
banshee.
Mhm.
See, every time I thought
Chills.
about banshees and stuff,
Yeah.
I thought it was like not some kind of fae, or like that a woman with, that if you hear her cry or scream, there's somebody going to die, and I
Yeah.
didn't
Right.
realize it was a fairy. I thought it was like something totally, because each cryptic, I thought it might be part of that, all that, because and you're putting everything into like with fairies now, so it makes a little more sense to me that everything's being bunched in there. And also in South America, Jenny, wherever people came over to this country and settled, maybe that's why it's down in South America also, the banshees, because you have people from Europe, Ireland, and down go into all these other countries, South America, Central America. So maybe they brought all that culture with them there too. So
Well,
that's why.
that's a good point.
The
That's a good
harbinger
They
thing.
have La Llorona in South America, right?
Yeah.
The woman who drowned, like I think her
She's
kids
similar.
drowned,
Oh, yeah.
She's
Yeah.
similar to a banshee, isn't she?
isn't she?
Yeah.
Yeah. And I wonder if that sort of evolved, like some of my friends that were in, South America.
Oh, we got a special
that
guest
sort of
coming
thing.
on as of now. Excuse me, Jenny.
We have a
We have a
surprise
special
for you.
guest come on.
Oh,
Hey,
speaking
Sam.
of,
Hey guys.
speaking of the banshee, no, I'm
Sam.
kidding. Hi, Sam.
I heard you guys talking about harbingers. I'm like, I gotta pop in.
Yeah, it was just like
Oh,
speaking
yeah.
of harbingers.
Well, because
So,
you've
Harbinger,
experienced
good
it.
here. Hi, Sam. How are you? How are you feeling?
I've been actually really sick, and I probably gave it to Andy. So
Yeah,
Oh,
that's
no.
where I got it. Yeah, probably.
You and everyone else, right? In North
yeah,
America.
it's been
right
really
now.
bad. But I'm getting better, so it's good.
I'm
Are
glad.
you still snowed in
glad.
at the hotel, Sam?
No, so I was stuck in the hotel because I work at a hotel for about 2 days, and I was able to come back today. But we're still covered in snow.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Like the rest of the country, everybody's covered in snow.
Yeah.
As
Yeah.
it is.
Are you at the hotel now?
No, I'm at home. I made it
Oh,
back.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Good.
So
We were talking about South America. We were talking about La Llorona. How that's
it's-
creepy.
Yeah, so I was when I was a tour guide in Salem, I gave a tour of a group of kids that were from Mexico, and I talked about a lady in white in the cemetery in Salem, and they were like La Llorona, and they were all
Yeah.
screaming. So I terrified a group of kids from Mexico.
Perfect.
They're not
La
coming back.
Llorona.
They can come up there and say, no tour. No tour.
No, that's a creepy one. That's a creepy one because you picture her like wet, right? Like coming out of the water.
Yeah, like
Like,
the ring.
yeah,
Like
no.
she looks like what I would imagine the girl from the ring.
Mhm.
Just-
Yes.
So I heard
Yeah.
you guys talk about Harbinger. So I'm
Yeah.
actually really fascinated in that topic because
Me too.
I have my own personal Harbinger.
That's right.
So Yeah, so when I've had an encounter with a man with wearing a hat in Salem, and anytime that I've seen him, something bad happens in my family. So I do feel that I personally feel like that harbingers are real. However, the banshee, you were talking about banshees earlier, right?
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
feel like Boston has examples of banshees as well. Did you put that in your book, Andy?
I did. Yeah.
Yeah, there's one in the Boston Common. And speaking of Boston, actually, Andy and I go way back to my early days of writing books. We worked on Ghost to Boston together and also Ghost to Salem. So he was my kind of research best friend. We worked together a lot. I've been working on a book with him the past like 6 months or so.
Well, I've been
Lizzie
like
Borden.
helping out. I'm not like writing or researching it, but I've been there on the journey with you.
On the
Sure.
journey, and it's been so much fun. We had, except for
I
the part we got sick, but
Oh
Well,
no.
apart from that, well, so Lizzie can I say that or not? It's Lizzie Borden.
yeah.
So it's
Okay.
Lizzie Borden is the basis for Sam's next book, but
Oh,
Awesome.
okay. You heard it here. You heard it here first. I can't wait. That's a
The
good one.
title is called Lizzie Borden and the Family Curse. So we go together on these adventures, and I have all these experiences, and Andy's like, "Oh, Sam, that's just fog," or like he'll kind of, he's like my debunker. Like,
I am quite Agent Scully for sure. Yeah,
Me
I-
too. Me too. I can relate
you
to
are
that.
too. Yeah, I don't have a lot of
Yes.
experience. I did just write a blog where I described my one supernatural experience, and it was interestingly it was a dwarf. But it was while I was having sleep paralysis, so I don't really consider it. Yeah, I don't really consider it a true paranormal experience, but
Scary.
I saw it with my eyes. So I'm like, I saw. Yeah, it was a dwarf without a face. And for some reason, I like interpreted the face as like all these wounds, like,
Mhm.
Oh
and
my
I think
goodness.
there's that part of the brain that recognizes faces. I think
Yeah.
that part of my brain was maybe still asleep, so I just couldn't read the dwarf's face. So I interpreted it as being all wounds. It was horrible.
Right, you just filled it in.
Sorry?
Can I tell them
Like
about
your
the
brain
ogre
just
story?
filled it in. Oh, I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
my brain kind of filled it in and didn't know how else to interpret it. So I was like, it must be like wounds for some reason.
Hmm.
Not the
Oh,
hat.
The hag. Remember that? That's the same kind of thing. The hag.
She's a
Another word
harbinger as
for it.
well, is she?
Yes.
Andy, can I tell them about the ogre?
Yeah.
Oh, ogre. We didn't talk about ogres yet. We mentioned all imps and dwarves and
I've been
little
called
people.
an ogre a couple times, but
Gosh, more things that Disney has taken. Okay.
Yeah.
All right, so Andy and I were at a convention in Maine, and so we had to share a room. And there was a moment where, speaking of sleep paralysis, I was in the bed. So around 3 a.m. I wake up and I look up and I thought it was Andy. Like, Sam, how are you? And I didn't have my glasses on, so it looked like Andy, but it had a different accent and it sounded really creepy. Because of my glasses were off, it looked like it sounded like Andy, but a little different, and his face kind of looked like an ogre. And I looked over, Andy on the other bed was basically sound asleep, so it wasn't Andy. And then I wake up and I'm like, do you remember us talking, Andy? It was like 3 a.m.
I do, yeah. I can't remember what I said now.
You can't remember what you said?
What did I say? What did I say?
I don't remember, but it was. I mean, I was talking about like, it's the witching hour or something like that. And
Yeah, but the thing is, you assumed that it was me, and then I think you
did.
thought that something must have possessed me or something because I
Yeah.
was acting crazy, talking crazy.
The ogre
Oh my
or
God.
Andy in sleep paralysis said, "Sam, how are you?" Like it was like really
Right.
creepy, and it was like on top of me, and I was like,
Whoa.
"Sam, how are you?" But I looked over and you were sound
I was
asleep.
asleep, yeah.
Yeah, so maybe
So
it
it
was
was
like a
like-
doppelganger.
That was like a doppelganger. Yeah.
Yeah. It was like
Or
the
like a-
Shrek version of you, Andy.
yeah, the
Like
Right.
an ogre Andy.
okay.
That but we've had many experiences. So
Well, yeah, this is why I invited Sam on to talk about an experience that
Yeah.
we had, because I don't have really like these lots of paranormal experiences, whereas Sam is attuned to that. I so in my New England book I talk about the Little People's Village, which is in Waterbury, Connecticut.
Mm.
There's like a whole backstory. It's basically like a lot of tiny little abandoned houses in the woods. um, they're all kind of crumbling, and like not many of them are left anymore. And there's like a big red throne in the middle of the village. And the legend is if you sit on the throne, you die within 7 years. Um, but the story is that the reason there was a man called William Lannon, and he built these homes for the fairies that lived in the woods because they asked him to. And they kind of like they drove him crazy with their little chattering voices, that kind of thing. But these are just like stories. Like if you look up the history, there's no real evidence for all that. It's just that he wanted to create a roadside attraction, and then he eventually abandoned it. But even so, like ever since, people have had a lot of paranormal experiences at this Little People Village. So I obviously had to cover it in my book. So I went there on my own the first time. I kind of got in maybe a couple of feet, and then I just was like filled with this dread, and I had to leave. I was just like scared. I was on my own. So ever since, I kind of wanted to go back. And Sam and I were driving back from an event or a Paracon or something. I can't remember what it was now. But we were going through Connecticut, and I was like, "Oh, should we go to the Little People's Village?"
And I'm
So,
like, yeah, I'm like, okay, let's go to the
Normal
abandoned
conversation
village.
between friends.
Yeah.
so
He's
yeah,
like, "Got
so
it."
so we went, and we had a lot of trouble finding it because it's really overgrown now. Finally, we found it, and as soon as first we were walking into the woods, and Sam heard footsteps walking behind him. And suddenly I heard this scream, and Sam came like running down the hill, saying, "Oh my God, there was someone walking behind me." Do you remember? It's like
See,
that was
your interpretation of what happened is so funny because it's different than mine. So Andy was like, Sam, let's go to the abandoned fairy village, and I'm like, okay. And I'm going because I wanted to support him because he like a lot. Weren't you scared the first time you went, Andy?
yeah, I couldn't go in on my own. There is a really bad energy there.
And so
Really?
I wanted to
Mm.
validate him. I'm like, you know what? I'll go. I've been through a lot, so I can go to really scary things, including an abandoned fairy village in the middle of the woods. I don't really believe in fairies, so I didn't really think anything of it. So we're walking, and then we were definitely not alone. There was something else in there. Yes, I did scream. Andy was trying to scare me the whole time, though.
I
Right?
love
Yeah,
it.
that's true. I was.
He was like, Sam, there's a one behind you, Sam. And I'm like,
Oh, now we
Andy,
story B and story A. Okay.
Yeah, true.
I
and
love
then
it.
but then so there was like we finally found it. So after like going through the woods, finding it, and I was scared because it was tick season too. So we could have gotten a tick.
Yeah.
We could have had briars, like whatever. There was all sorts of things that could have happened to us. So we get there. Oh, and Andy goes, "Oh, and by the way, there's a throne that if you sit on the throne, you're going to die in 7 years." And I'm like,
Oh, by the way.
by the way,
I mean, I would never. You don't have to sit on it.
right. So anyway, he was like, "Sit on the throne, Sam." No, I'm just kidding.
It's like when you're in a sleepover. Bloody Mary, Bloody Mary,
Yeah,
Bloody
exactly.
Mary.
Sit on the throne,
Sam,
Sam.
you do
Take
it,
a
Sam.
seat,
You do
Sam.
it.
Take a seat. Okay, sit down. You know you're going to die in 7 years.
Oh, by the way.
Anyway, we're
What a good
walking there,
friend.
and we finally find it, and I did hear like something behind me. We were kind of tortured throughout he was kind of scaring me throughout the whole adventure. I find it looks like a little like a tunnel of some sort. And Andy said that that's where the fairies travel, and I'm like,
The
okay,
fairy tunnel, yeah.
yeah. So he's walking up toward the throne, and then I look down and I see what looks like a ball of light come out of the tunnel with little fairy wings in the coming out of it, and I'm like, oh my god, it's a fairy. I'm like, Andy, and he was like way up ahead of me, so he didn't see it. But I thought that he could have seen it too. So I saw a fairy, and never thought that that's possible. But it was a ball. So it was a ball with a little like Tinkerbell in the middle. And I know, does that sound crazy, Andy? I know you.
No, but you'd never. It's interesting that you know that you saw one, and it's very similar to descriptions that other people have from the present day for sure.
And so I tell him that, and then he's like, "Let's." And then, so the throne was down like a bit of a ways from where we were, so I was terrified already. We saw the throne. We did not sit on the throne, although it was like, how Andy, were we able to get close enough to get photos of the throne? I wasn't. I don't remember.
We didn't. You were by that point you were really quite freaked out, and we didn't even think about taking photos of the throne. We just left.
Okay. But we did see it though, and then it was sparkly, had little sparkles on it. And
they
then
have quartz crystal.
And then we were walking back, and then we saw a couple in the middle of the like they were coming into the woods, and I'm like, I thought maybe they were ghosts because like you never, because like it was weird. You see a random couple walking in the middle of the woods, and we talked to them. So Andy was like, they were real people, and I'm like, well, I don't know if they were real people or not. So
I think they were real.
I think they were real too, but they ended up like not going because I apparently I'm like, it's really creepy in there. It's really creepy in there. And they were gonna go, but they decided to come back. They were creeped out by my stories.
Oh my goodness.
They did turn back.
So,
actually, let's poke them.
That's a good question, Sam. So, I mean, was this fairy something you saw in your mind, or did you see it in the coming out, like physically see it?
Most of you guys, so I'm clairvoyant, so I actually do see things outside of my body and also in my mind's eye. I actually saw it outside, so it looked like a ball of light flying from actually going into the tunnel. So it was, I physically saw it, and it could have been, I can maybe I see ghosts, and maybe I also see fairies too. First time ever, but I do feel like that. I do feel like it was outside of me, and I do think it was a physical manifestation that was outside.
That's interesting.
Right. Because you had said Andrew could have seen it.
If you're open to all that, Sam, you can probably see the other supernatural things, because I've drawn other things too, like a little creature, like with the hair and everything that you guys called Pokwadjis and stuff. I seen a couple of those already in two different locations. One in Long Island and one upstate New York in Newburgh. So I feel that since you're open to all this, I know I am, you will be able to see other types of supernatural things. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, apparently I can. I do feel like that. I do like if I actually saw a Pukwudgie, I probably would have a nervous breakdown. Imagine like walking in the woods and seeing a little person with like a little like darts and like I'm gonna get you with a little spear. I would be terrified. So
they threw rocks at me. I didn't get shot with any arrows or anything.
Yeah.
And then when I noticed it disappeared. It just vanished.
Oh, so you did see this? So I thought it was a drawing. Where was that?
One I seen it looked like it was like some kind of, his eyes were bulging out a little bit, and the eyes were red, and he was like a black figure, but he was more in the shadows. And I seen it up in Newburgh. There was an old farm up there that we used to investigate that was over a couple of 100 years old that what's his name, Washington's troops marched through and everything, and they actually camped there and stuff. But the location I seen it, there was the barn, and they had this place in the back where they stored some kind of trailers, and he was behind there. And my brother walking, and rocks were like being tossed at us. And they weren't big rocks. It was small, and I thought it's like, oh, what's Bigfoot out here or something tossing? And it was, and then I looked and I seen it, and I'm like, and I started calling for my brother, Gerard, and all of a sudden the thing just vanished. And the other one I seen was in the cemetery in Oyster Bay, Long Island. It was a cemetery for military. There was they called the it was for black servicemen that were in the world, in what do you call it, the Civil War, that were killed in battle, and they buried them in this location. Now they got a big factory next to it, and it's like behind the factory and stuff. And at another time, I got rocks thrown at me, and I walked down the road, and I'm walking, and I bring my camera up. I got a full night vision camera where I can see with the light and everything, and the power on the camera and the light died at the same time. And I'm like, and as a dad, I looked up and I seen this little hairy gray creature jump up. He was looking about a 5-year-old. He was small, running up the hill like this into the woods.
Oh, wow.
And that was it. But I drew both of them.
I want
That
to
would
see
freak me
that.
out.
I want to see the
Yeah.
drawings.
Yeah, I will. I'll send them to you.
Yeah.
Okay. That's definitely sounds like a pakwaji, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, it
I
does.
mean,
So
that's what I thought. At first, I thought it was like I said, what's this? A little Bigfoot? I don't know, maybe baby. But on Oyster
Oh.
Bay, I don't know, maybe Newburgh, but because there was woods around the area. But in Oyster Bay, it was a cemetery and a big factory, and it wasn't much forest for anything to live in. So that's why I was more, I didn't know what it was at first. And it's funny because I'm telling everybody, take pictures. And by the time everybody took pictures, the thing was already gone. And
That's
nobody else
fast.
seen it except for me.
Wow.
Wow.
So I have a similar story too. So I was in the Freetown State Forest. However, if I saw a little imp, I probably would freak out. But I was with James Anito and his son Caleb, and we were walking to do research for one of my books, and walking in, and then we started seeing what looked like locusts swarming and kind of like firebombing us as we're walking down this path. And Andrew actually told me that that puckwudgies could take the shape of insects. Is that true, Andy?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
And so I'm like, maybe,
Oh, wow.
maybe I had a puckwudgie sighting without knowing it, because it was really freaky, and they were not just your average size locust or bugs. They were like huge, and they were kind of like firebombing us as we were walking in, almost like stay off this land kind of thing.
Right. Well, that's that. We were talking earlier about the negative experience. How puckwudgies are experienced quite negatively often by us, rather than like the Wampanoag or whatever.
But I mean, but it was also kind of a warning. Speaking of harbingers, it was kind of a warning because we were going like closer to the ledge and the Bridgewater Triangle and the Freetown State Forest, and as we were walking in the middle of the road, and I'm like, James, get out of the street. So we were actually walking in the middle of the street. We kind of pulled over, and then a group of dirt bikes came going down the path out of the blue. And James and Caleb would have been hit if I did not get them out of the road. So in many ways, they were maybe warning us that we're about to walk into danger. And so I'm really glad that I had the ability to get them out of the street, because I'm like, listen, just get them off. You guys get off the road now. And if they didn't do that, they would have been hit.
Somebody told me about in Gettysburg, one of the reenactments. They stay when they do the reenactments. They sleep on the field, the battlefield, and everything. And one of the guys I know said him and his partner, they were walking out on a trail at nighttime, and they heard like a troop, something following them, like a bunch of guys following them. They turned around, and there was a tree on the side, and they said it looked like millions of lightning bugs in the tree, but it wasn't lightning bug season. So now that's making me think maybe it was the fairies in that tree. You think the whole tree lit up like with lights all over it, like you said, like thousands and thousands of lightning bugs, but maybe it was fairies.
Yeah,
that's a possibility.
Yeah,
Interesting.
There's just stories like there are similar stories all over that I've found like that.
And since that, I'm definitely a believer, and Andy's more the grounded folklorist, skeptic to a certain degree. But I also feel like that things are presented to us in the ways that we can handle them. So
Yeah.
I can handle ghosts.
Yeah.
I can't handle little people like that, or aliens or anything that's like that. So I do feel like whatever, if it's supernatural, it's going to present itself in a way that I can
Handle,
take
yeah.
it. And if I did
Mm.
see a little person with Andy, I would be like, oh my God, it's crazy. But I also feel like maybe I'll see something and Andy won't see something, and maybe there's a reason for that. Like maybe he's not as open as I am to it, or maybe it's fear. I mean, I don't know. I mean, why do you think that I see stuff, Andy, and you don't?
I don't know. That's a really good question. I mean, I don't know. I've had, because I meet a lot of people who believe in fairies at my book signings, and some of them approach it not so much in like a paranormal way, but more in like a spiritual practice way. So that what they do is they do things like leaving out offerings for the fairies. They
Mm.
do little rituals. And it's a whole like spiritual thing for them. So they sometimes say to me, "You haven't seen fairies. You should try this. You should try leaving out like offerings and things, and having a place somewhere in your home or in your yard that is dedicated to them. And that if you do that, then eventually you'll have an experience of them." Other people tell me that it takes a long time to do that before they see anything. But I don't know. I don't have the desire. I don't know. I think that's probably what it is. I don't have the desire to do that. I don't know.
I
I
mean,
just
Kim,
sorry.
Kim might be a good person to answer that question,
Yes.
because I mean, you really as like a medium as well, like you understand, like, why do you see it and I don't see it, for example, like in general, why do you
you know, I think this is $1 million question. I think
Yeah.
I don't know if we'll ever really know, but I think everybody has the ability. I think
Really?
everybody has the hardware. Everybody has the hardware. It's just, what software are you running? Are you running the software that you don't want to see it, or you don't have anything to do with it? Then that's going to be maybe the kind of programming that you're prone to. But I do know there's quite a few people who don't want to see and they still see. So it's not necessarily just that. There might be something else that happened to them, a life experience that kind of shifted their opening and their awareness of the other side. So there's many different ways we come to it. But yeah.
Like I have a strong belief in, like God, and I pray and I have my spirituality, but it just doesn't involve the sense. Well, it only involves the senses to the extent that, like I'll burn incense and it smells nice and that makes me think of, God or something. But it doesn't, I don't see things like, and I don't, that's why I use images. Like I'll use like, whatever to help me to get in that frame of mind. But yeah, I don't see things. And I suppose what Kim, you're saying about the software or the hardware, the software that you have, doing the little rituals of leaving out offerings for these beings, that's how you kind of gradually over time probably change your software, right? And become more receptive.
Yeah, because it becomes a little bit of like that spiritual practice, almost that kind of inner practice. You're making an offering, ritual. Yeah, you're making that inner connection to something else. So even if you don't see something, you're kind of opening up the potential possibility, willingness, capability of having something come back. Yeah, and seeing something.
Andrew, how religious are you? Are you very religious? Because sometimes you're that religious that goes against you believing in all these other spirits or fairies and stuff. Because
Well, I do.
Religion, it always pushes you out of that. It's like always says, no, you're dealing with demons or devil or something.
Yeah, I don't go to that extreme. I know lots of people, some people are like that about the paranormal, but no, I don't think that. But yeah, maybe when if you believe in God, the idea of giving offerings to something else maybe is a little bit strange. So I just like don't do what?
are like sacrilegious. You know, it's sort
Yeah,
of
but
like
Okay.
I actually have like I have a Celtic goddess in my room actually. Not that I believe in her, but I'll show her to you.
Nice.
Yeah.
Also, Sam,
Yeah.
I wanted to let you know I just stayed in Salem for a weekend, and I stayed at 4 Broad Street, so the
oh,
historic
cool.
section, and it was fabulous. Had a great time. Yeah.
Oh, awesome! I'm so glad you had a good time. Yeah,
What was
Anthony
it
and I,
called?
Oh, I was just letting
Cool.
Sam know that I had just stayed in Salem recently, and I stayed at 4 Broad Street, so it was like the historic section, and
Oh.
in one of the houses, and I had a great time. Yeah, it was really nice.
Nice.
So
any
I
ghostly
love how
encounters? Kim?
oh, I'm sorry, Sam.
No, any ghostly encounters in Salem?
Sadly, not really. Actually, I walked into the house and I was like really expecting because we were right in the historic section, right next to like
Right.
0 Broad Street and across from that yellow house that's supposed to be haunted. And no, I walked in and I was like, nothing really much here. So nothing really to speak of. But in the middle of the night, the door to the closet in my bedroom opened in the middle of the night. So I
That's
don't know.
that's pretty.
Well,
I mean,
that
that's pretty
counts.
eventful.
Yeah.
I was like, I'm going to close this. Anyway, so Andrew, you had a
Andrew, you were getting something to show us?
Oh yeah. So this
Yeah.
is this is Epona. So she's
Yes.
like have you heard of Epona?
Oh,
Yeah.
God, she is. I am her. Yeah.
So she's like she's kind of associated with fairies in a way because you know there's a story from Welsh mythology about Rhiannon, and people often say that Rhiannon was a fairy, and one reason we kind of know she was a fairy is because she's riding her horse, and she's riding it kind of slowly, but the human hero tries to catch up with her by riding his horse, and as far as he rides it as fast as he can, but he can never catch up with her, even though she's kind of like trotting along. So she's kind of from the other world. So the Rhiannon is often associated with Epona. So I guess I see her as kind of like a fairy. And then the other one I have here is this is Dea Nutrix. So she's holding like 2 babies. It's like she was a Roman goddess from. Both of these goddesses were from Roman Britain, and I guess you'd call her. Some people call her like a small god, which is another name for fairies, like small gods. So yeah, I'm not like the kind of religious person who's like I hate all these other like religions, you know.
You're open to other religions.
Yeah,
Interesting, Andrew.
yeah.
I hadn't really thought about this, but isn't Rhiannon and Epona, aren't they associated with the color green?
Yeah, probably. Is that right? I don't remember.
I think one of them is, and I know you were just mentioning but earlier that the color green is historically associated with fairies. So
Yeah, she probably Rhiannon was probably wearing green. Probably, I'll have to look. Are there any fae known for wearing red? That's an interesting question because yes, red is the other color. It's often green, red, or white. Those are the I suppose 3 fairy kind of colors. Yeah.
Red. I didn't know that.
Yeah, I don't know why red.
the imps, right? The imps tend to wear
Imps,
red,
yeah.
right? I feel like that's coming from somewhere in the back of my brain.
In New York
Might have been the
Fairy.
book. Yeah, it's in the book.
Oh, did I mention that? I don't remember.
I think so.
I
That
could
sounds
be
familiar to
remembering
me
it
too.
wrong.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, I could be remembering it.
That sounds familiar to me. I love how you tie in the whole Washington Irving angle.
Yeah, so and actually, so I tried to like recreate the sort of folkloric atmosphere that would have existed when Irving was visiting Tarrytown, so that when he was writing about all his imps and things like that, what stories did he draw on? What would he overheard? What would he have overheard? But there's only so much you can do because a lot of the records for New Netherland, you need to read Dutch for a start to be able to access them. And a lot of them haven't been translated. Well, yeah. So, Jenny, you need to
Jenny,
read all
right.
of the records for New Netherlands.
No problem.
I'll put you on it.
Also, but I did just come across a book. Well, someone emailed me saying they'd read New York Fairies, and they recommended a book that's called The Dutch World of Washington Irving. It just came out, and that she gave me a lot more insight about some actual real stories from the Netherlands that were very similar to the ones that the Washington Irving spoke about. And the other thing I realized I left out of the book, because Anthony mentioned Newburgh, I think, is it near Newburgh? There's this place called the Devil's Dance Chamber. It's on the west bank of the Hudson River. And I missed this. Sorry?
I heard that.
That sounds familiar.
Yeah, well, so
I feel
in
like
Dutch,
I've heard that. Was it through you, Sam? Did you talk about that, Sam?
I mean, we definitely have. So you even have crossover from Ghost to
We
Sleepy
do.
Hollow, and also
Yeah. Okay.
New York
That's where I've heard
Fairies.
it. Okay.
And yeah, so it probably was in that
Yeah.
in my book, and I
but it has a Dutch name though. So I'm saying Devil's Dance Chamber, but in Dutch it's like Danskamer.
Yeah, Comer's room, like a room chamber.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
it's Devil's Dance Kammer, but so I guess Washington Irving said that the Peter Stuyvesant was sailing up the Hudson River and he saw some devils dancing on this rock that was extending into the Hudson River, and this author is basically saying that this is the imps again. It's the same as the Dunderberg imps. The imps
Right.
that lived on Dunderberg. He calls them devils, but you know that this often happens with fairies and dwarves and imps and things. They get called devils, but really they're not obviously devils. But
and I find it really interesting. Like they get demonized. Some people demonize them. It's the wording that they use, and other people view them as helpers. So they have kind of been demonized through pop culture and through literature over the years, and especially the colonists. I think demonized the little people.
Right.
yeah,
Yeah. I always heard the fairies were always like evil and they're not good. You know, that's one of the stories I heard. And
Yeah, like chaos bringers. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Same.
So
Living
I
out
mean,
the chaos. Yeah.
yeah. I mean, they really are. Like I think they would steal humans for hard labor. They would steal humans in order to impregnate people in order to have fairy babies.
Really?
Or they would steal women to be nurse. What's the word where you nurse
Surrogate?
another woman's baby?
surrogate.
Oh, like a surrogate?
Yeah, like a surrogate. Yeah.
Nursemaid, something like that. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah. So
Right.
they really were quite horrible in folklore, I would say. Like,
Woo.
My cannoli.
Like cannoli.
Uh-oh, there we
is
go.
that you?
There we go.
All right, guys, I have to head
great.
out, but Andy, it was so great helping you out on this show.
Thanks for coming in, Sam.
Oh, Sam, it was so nice
Everybody-
to see you. Feel good.
Thanks for sharing that story of actually seeing a fairy. That's fascinating.
That is.
And
Yeah.
I wish
Weird
that I would
place.
have taken a picture of it because I'm like Andy, I swear I saw it. And he's like, yeah, whatever, Sam.
Like, I don't know how you can mistake it. My gosh.
What are you going to
All
tell
right,
us? Stay right there. I'm going to smile. I got your picture. They're not gonna
Exactly.
stay-
Yeah.
That is like,
All right.
Try and get the camera thing down.
All right, guys, have a good night.
Okay,
Bye,
good night.
Sam.
Thank
Take care.
you, Sam.
Thank you.
Thank
Good
you
to see
for
you.
coming by.
Oh, what a nice treat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah, that
It's
was
always
fun to
good
hear.
to
this
see him. Yeah. Awesome.
That was
Especially from
nice
both
to
sides.
stop by.
I was going to ask you, speaking of Dutch, like,
Uh-huh.
what's the difference in the stories you've heard between like the Dutch from the Netherlands and like the Pennsylvania Dutch? To me, I call them Germans, like Pennsylvania Dutch, like, you know,
Yeah.
like I can't even understand it really. I can because it's sort of bastardized, but it's more German than Dutch to me.
Yeah. They're not Dutch. The Pennsylvania
No.
Dutch are not Dutch. Yeah, they're
I
German.
call them Germans. Okay, so that's good. Okay.
Deutschland.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So the word Dutch years and years ago, I guess it referred to anyone who was the German-speaking people throughout Europe. So
Right.
when they came over, they called themselves Dutch because Germany
Yeah,
didn't exist when the Pennsylvania Dutch came here. It was
exactly.
so
Oh,
yeah.
So what's the
So
difference in
yeah,
like the
what's the
stories
difference?
there versus, in New Netherland?
Well, they're pretty
Like the
sim. They're pretty similar. They they with New Netherland. Oh, you mean the difference between New Netherland and the
right.
Pennsylvania Dutch?
Like a Stuyvesant, like you were saying, or like a
Okay,
somebody
well,
that you
so
actually visited in Pennsylvania.
yeah, so they're similar because yeah, like it's Germanic, isn't it? It's a
Right.
Germanic kind of background. So it does seem to be a lot of little people, a lot of dwarves. There seems to be two types of dwarves, I would say. One is the dwarf that lives in a mountain, um, and then dwarf that lives in the woods. So the one who lives in the woods is sometimes associated with like healing power. So he'll give the ability to heal to people, or he'll give another power like the ability to hunt perfectly, if you encounter him. So this dwarf has been like described in different ways. Sometimes he's described as an old man with like gray skin,
Huh.
um, and then other times he's been seen in the woods, kind of, I don't know, almost like a wild man figure, a bit like a mini Bigfoot or something like that.
Hmm.
Um,
That could be what you saw, Anthony. Like you
Maybe,
said. Who knows?
maybe.
You show him the picture and let's
yeah,
see
I
what
want to
I
see. I
would
want
love
to
to
see
know
that
what your
picture.
I
initial
don't have it
reaction is.
downloaded
And
on
you're
this,
like,
so I got to send it to you.
But then and then the Dutch in the New Netherland, the actual Dutch, their stories do seem to be more about kabouters and kobolds and like dwarves that live in mountains, basically. Although
right.
Washington Irving seems to change them and make them more to do with the weather, like storms and winds and things,
hmm.
causing storms and winds, which I don't think was really a Dutch. That doesn't seem very Dutch.
Hmm.
Um, but and then the other thing with the Pennsylvania Dutch is they also have stories about fairies that dance in rings and create rings in the grass where they've danced. Fairy rings like we have in Britain and Ireland.
Mhm.
So they have those, and there's also some connection in Pennsylvania Dutch fairy lore with wealth. So if they saw the fairies, they might find like gold coins where the fairies were. Or there's one story, for instance, about a Pennsylvania Dutch farmer who saw some fairies pulling up his turnips, and they like chopped the turnips into little discs. And then when he ran out to stop them, and the fairies ran away, and he picked up the turnip discs and took them home, and the next day he found that these discs had turned into gold coins.
Huh.
So yeah, there's a lot, and actually there's a very old reference to Pennsylvania Dutch fairy law from like 1783, where like a German physician went traveling around Pennsylvania, and he also said that the the people there, the Pennsylvania Dutch, they were obsessed with sudden wealth, like finding gold, because I guess everyone was pretty poor back then, but also that they had stories about little dwarves and kobolds. So it seems like, yeah, it does. That was 1783.
Wow.
So
Yeah,
how
this
far
is
have you gone back to maybe the first story about fairies? How far back have you reached so far? Just the 1700s, or
That's an interesting question. Yeah, I don't know. Like, there's references to hobgoblins that go back to the 1600s, and this thing called raw bones and bloody. I can't remember his name. Bloody Bones and Rawhead. That there are
Oh my
reference that Yeah, he's like a scary, like boogeyman type figure that the English brought over in the 1600s. I don't know if I would call him a fairy though. I can't think off the top of my head where a lot of it doesn't get recorded until later. So
Right. It's
yeah,
all
The
passed down
story of
verbally until
hearsay.
then.
exactly.
Right.
Well, I was just looking up because you're talking about elves and dwarves, and I'm like, oh my gosh, did Tolkien just like steal all of these folklore and just make this epic
Yeah,
story about
he
all of
did.
this? Yeah, because the dwarf, I mean, yeah, it's all that. And then I was just looking up here too. I was like, well, when did Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, the movie, come out? And that was, I mean, that was a long time ago. That was
30s?
1937. Yeah.
Oh,
I mean, that's almost 100 years ago now. So interesting. I don't know.
But
I never really thought about the origins of those. So
yeah, because I guess Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs is an old. Is it German? Is
German,
it
I
a
think.
German
Yeah.
story? Yeah, I thought
yeah,
it
it's
would
saying
be.
it's a German folktale from the Brothers
Yeah.
Grimm.
Okay. It's very strange how, like, if you talk to Pennsylvania Dutch today, and if you ask them, are there fairy stories or dwarf stories or in your culture, they would probably say no. But if you actually do the research, there were just they were
Right.
because I went to the Pennsylvania German Cultural Heritage Center, and so they
Wow.
know that I was like researching this chapter for my next book, and I was yeah, he really helped me. The director of the center, he really helped me find all of these references to fairies, and um,
Amazing.
yeah, there's lots of like names of them. Like Erdmenlin is one name, which I think translates as like Little Earthman.
Oh,
Um, and then there's the Buklik Menli, S. Buklik Menli, which is like the Little Hunchback Man. And so that housewives used to say. That he like lived in the kitchen somewhere, and if the broth or soup turned out well, they would say, oh, I have to leave some for the little hunchback man because he helped it come out well. But
oh,
then if a cake like fell in the middle, it would be like, oh, that was the little hunchback man did that, like, so he
right.
but
Nobody
it's
ever taking any responsibility for themselves.
no, well, yeah, exactly, it's always the fairies.
Right.
But the weird thing about the book, like Menley, is that I had a lot of struggle finding out what he was all about because he first appears in this song from Germany, and he's called like Das Bucklige Mannlein, which is German. But then how the language changed from when the Pennsylvania Dutch came in the 1600s, it changed into Es Bucklig Menley. So it's
Mm.
just that's how different the language sounds. Um,
It's very different. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. So
Yeah.
he appears in songs. So I sort of said to I s- there's also some sort of anti-Semitic caricature because these songs often have they appear in songbooks with pictures of the little hunchback man, and he's like dressed and he looks kind of like an anti-Semitic figure with a big like hooked nose and all of that.
Mm.
Because Europe was very anti-Semitic, really, around in Germany and places like that at that time. But so I said to the director of the PA Dutch Center, I was like, is he really a fairy or is he just a figure in a song? That I was like, and he's like, no, I think he really is a fairy because there are records of housewives talking about him as if he was a household spirit. So,
Mm.
but the thing
Yeah.
is, you often find in folklore the beings who were not, there was no real belief in them. They were just figures in literature or in, I don't know, stories or whatever. They developed into an actual belief. So I don't know in this case whether he was first just a figure in a song and then turned into a belief, or if the song was sung about him afterwards. I just don't know.
That's
Yeah, it's a
interesting.
great point.
Gotcha.
Yeah, yeah.
Gotcha.
It's interesting how um, like what we heard, like fairies being evil and leprechauns and all that stuff. I mean, yes, everything's a fairy. It's like We heard everything differently. You're saying little people. You know, I'm used to seeing in books, the little people like 3 feet tall, 2 feet tall, and then fairies are these little things, lights that are flying around. So
Yeah.
when you say little people, does the leprechaun that's a fairy too, or is it?
Well, so I guess I just use the word fairy as a catch-all. I mean, maybe it's not that accurate.
Overall,
Maybe I don't want to. I guess maybe that could confuse some people actually, but like I just use it as a casual. But yeah, you're right. When I'm talking about the different things, I should probably say dwarf or little people or
Right.
I
yeah,
guess
Well,
I knew because what's that?
they're all little people. Yeah, yeah.
I would think that's the
Little,
catch-all, right?
that
Like,
little spirit.
Little people.
yeah,
little
Well,
people.
right, because fairies can be tall, can't they? Like the banshee is not
yeah,
little,
no,
Well, yeah. I mean, she's usually
no.
smaller than the average person.
is she? Yeah, I guess. Like,
Yeah, she's usually, yeah, I guess. Not that I've seen one in
Not that you've
person,
heard
but
her.
stories.
Right.
You may have.
Exactly.
You never know.
Yeah, not yet. I definitely did not want us to leave tonight without talking about these doll spirits from the
Yeah.
Lenape.
uh,
Mostly because I have a unnatural aversion to dolls, and
yeah,
now I feel vindicated.
yeah.
You do. Yeah. She's like, nope,
Anthony, listen
nope.
up. I think this is my like ancestral bones speaking as my fear of dolls. But Andrew, you want to tell us about these really cool doll spirits from the Lenape?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, so they apparently passed down these dolls in their family. Some families did. It was usually looked after by the women in the family and passed down through the maternal line. And they, so it's hard, obviously, when we're dealing with anything to do with Native American beliefs, it's hard to sort of we get people get reports obviously from white folklorists who went and interviewed them, and often they were Christians. So the reports of these dolls that we have, basically, the women would dress them up in all kinds of lovely clothing, and they would change the clothing once a year, and they would feed the doll. They would perform a dance for the doll, and they would sort of keep the doll wrapped up in like fine fabrics and things like that.
Like a
And then
child.
like a
Yeah.
child, yeah. And it was sort of, so they were sort of considered to be like keepers of health. So if you treated this doll well, it bestowed health, on the family.
Mhm.
And then but then there are these sorts of folk tales that became associated with the dolls about, how did this practice emerge? And so the stories are kind of scary. So it's like, a girl tried to just get rid of her doll because she didn't want it anymore. And then she started having nightmares where the doll visited her and was like kind of trying to attack her. And then another story like about a boy who tried to get rid of one, and he went mad. He was like driven insane. So what I was kind of getting at with the whole where we learn about these stories is that like I think one description of a doll we have comes from a Christian missionary, and he describes it as like a horrible thing, and the family that gave it to him said that they wanted it gone, like they saw it as an idol by that point, because I suppose the Lenape had converted to Christianity. So they wanted it gone. They thought, we'll give it to the missionary. And so it was his job to sort of destroy it. But I don't know. It's like, just because at that point they did not want the doll anymore,
Mhm.
that doesn't mean that at one point in the past they really loved the doll, that
Right.
it was a spiritual practice, and they maybe felt very affectionate towards the doll, and they thought that, it was kind of a meaningful activity to have the dance and to dress it up.
Mhm.
So yeah, it was scary, but I guess the scariness comes partly through the Christian missionaries' description of it.
Yeah, it kind of reminds me of the story you were just telling about the hunchback who was in the
Yeah.
kitchen, and if you don't, care for and respect and honor that
Yeah.
entity or that spirit, then things will happen. It's kind of the same thing with this doll. Like you want to keep it clothed, happy, beautiful,
Yes.
and feeding
Right.
it. And it's interesting, Andrew. I literally just read today another story. I don't know if you've heard this story. It's called Vasilisa. It's actually in the
Russian?
book called Women Who Run with Wolves. It's a
Okay.
story. She has a book of stories. And literally in this story, they are feeding the doll. This girl has a little doll in her pocket and she keeps it and feeds it. And it's like her intuition. It's from her mother. So it was like another story. Gosh, it's an old Russian tale.
Yeah.
Russia.
I have to look that up. That is very similar, isn't it?
Yeah. I
Yeah.
was like, oh my gosh, I can't wait to share that. It's, yeah.
But that is the thing,
You
isn't it? It's like I think that's one thing is that because the idea people have told me like, oh, you should give offerings to fairies, you'll develop a spiritual practice. And I guess that is the fear. I feel like if you're going to do it, if you're going to do a spiritual practice, you have to commit to it.
100%.
Yeah, because if
And
you don't, it's like, I don't know. I don't want anything bad to happen.
I completely agree with that. And I just real quickly, like the hollow, I'm going to be talking about things that we create, hauntings that we create that, from living people create.
Exactly.
And you could really consider those dolls as like a created haunting almost, right?
Right.
And there's a lot of ethical concerns with that. And I'm going to talk about that, like if you're doing it on purpose. It's different if you have a teenage girl who's creating like this poltergeist activity. That's not on purpose. But if you are purposely, imbuing this doll with, like a spirit of its own, there's some ethical things there, I think.
Well, it's powerful, isn't it? And it's kind of once you start doing that, you're
how do you
kind of
control it?
Yeah, you're sort of stuck with it, or just you want to go. I think you want to go into something like that with positivity. If you go in with any conflict about what you're doing, you probably shouldn't be doing it. It has to be a wholly positive thing, like I love this doll kind of thing.
Exactly.
Yeah, like you said, it's going to bring good health to people, or it's going to bring health to people. And say it over and over again because that matters.
Like anything, like I know the Italians, and if we have all these different beliefs and little horns against evil,
right? The evil eye,
and what do you call the
malocchio?
Malocchio, and I know, like religious people growing up in my Italian family, that would wear the the women used to wear the red thing on their bra to keep evil away, and then if you're talking to somebody, you're worried about them, and so I guess it's got to do with your culture. And these people were very religious. Church they go to church. They said the rosary. They did all that stuff, but they still had these little beliefs. And with all these, the horn and everything to keep evil spirits, and that's like if somebody's envying, it's like then the people not trying to hurt you, but they envy something you have, and that brings bad luck to you and stuff like that. That's what the Italian. So I feel like those people with the doll, they felt this doll as a protection against evil, keeping it good. So I know religions, I could see them handing over the doll to the priest or whoever came to preach the Catholic, any sort of religion, because they feel like if they believe in that doll, they're not believing in religion. So let's get rid of the evil and let's give it to them.
Like idolatrous, kind of.
Like they just give it over because they feel like they keep it. You're believing the devil, whatever.
Exactly.
But it's got to do with the culture and like the beliefs. Like I could relate more to the Italian than any other culture because of that. You
Well,
know.
that reminds me, actually, talking about Italian, there was one future avenue for research for me would be, because I heard this from someone in Nyack, New York. She said that she'd recently been researching the entries in records of the sanitariums were in New York for people who had tuberculosis,
Yeah.
and the doctors would write in these in their notes that they visited Italian immigrants in New York City, and they had to tell them that you have to have your windows open at night because tuberculosis is spreading everywhere. Got to keep your windows open. But they didn't want to have their windows open because they said that evil spirits would come in at night, and that's what was causing the tuberculosis. So,
Oh
Mm.
my
so
goodness.
it's quite similar to fairies, I think. Perhaps the Irish view of fairies causing disease and things like that. So
Yeah.
yeah, I don't know.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
So I mean, the culture might not just start. I mean, it could have been all over Europe. It could have been all that. You know, it doesn't
Yeah.
have to maybe started in Ireland or Scotland. Maybe they took it to another level than the other countries. Because I know Italians have all kinds of traditions, all kinds of superstitious and everything
yeah.
else. So so maybe it was a fairy. Maybe they're calling it something else. Each culture, each religion, each nationality might have the same thing, but they call it something different.
It is all very similar all over Europe, I'd say.
Mm.
But
Yeah.
was the thing that you find scary, Kim, about the doll is that sometimes they would get the doll out of the bag, and they would see out of the box, and they would unwrap it from all these fabrics, and they would see like
Oh
burrs
no.
from trees or from the woodland
Like,
stuck
where
to the
has she
clothing.
been? Where
Like, yeah.
where is she going? Well, I
Wow.
just don't like dolls in general, and I don't really
Yeah.
know why. I never have. If I've never, even as a kid, I never had a doll,
Yeah.
and it's interesting that in the paranormal community, there's like such a thing about dolls, like
Right. Haunted dolls.
dolls,
Yeah.
Exactly.
people having cursed dolls, haunted dolls, the doll of a dead child in the doll. So
Well,
I was just so validating for me to be like, wow, there really is this very ancient practice from our land where we are, where I live here,
Mhm.
that has this kind of story and history about creating these dolls in effigy, but like really honoring
right.
these and creating them as like a child
Mhm.
that you care for. And that, like, so it actually has some origin of creating and imprinting a spirit into a doll. Do you know what I mean? Like,
Right,
this is,
yeah.
that's how old this practice is.
Hmm.
So is that why we believe it now? Is because, like, where did that come from? You know what I mean? Like, where
Yeah.
did because there's no practice like that
In Europe, yeah.
Europe. No, I mean, you would never do that in Europe. My God.
Yeah.
No.
Like,
We
No.
got time for one more question because we're getting down to the 2 hour mark.
Oh my gosh, that went so fast.
Yeah. Somebody
Yeah. What
asked,
about
Mary
trolls?
Beth
That's
asked about trolls.
ooh.
Well, yeah, I haven't really researched trolls much, but there is a troll story from Somerville, Massachusetts. There was
Ooh.
Hall Avenue, which actually Sam lived literally right opposite this house, and there was this house. It was like 1986, and the basement of this house kept flooding. And the two women who lived there, they sensed like an evil presence at the back of the house behind the bed. And they would wake up sometimes and their bed had like shifted forward by like
Oh,
2 feet or something. So
Wow.
they called in like a psychic. It was this Jewish psychic, like a healer type. I think this person is still alive actually, but she kind of went to the house, and she said that the house was built over an ancient spring, and that a troll lived in the spring. And so
what?
the
Oh,
troll was upset, like that this house had been built on top of it, basically.
Hmm.
So it was manifesting all of this like negative energy at the back of the house and flooding the basement. So they performed sort of like a ritual where they kind of released the troll back to another dimension or something. It was able to leave, like this, whatever,
Hmm.
it was trapped. Um, and I mean, I find the story interesting because it goes back to the idea of like these fairy or trolls or whatever, these otherworld beings, that they live in the land, and we shouldn't build on top of their space because it's supposed to be like a sacred space. You're supposed to approach it with care, leave offerings or whatever, but don't build right on top of it. But then it kind of, if you do build on top of it, the traditional way of dealing, if you build on top of a spirit, it kind of becomes a household spirit. It lives in your home then. But the traditional way of dealing with that would not be to banish the being. It would sort of be to make friends with it. So you would leave wherever it was, wherever it was appearing in your home, you would leave that space open for it. And you would sort of honor it to some extent, and you would leave it offerings and things like that. And then it could actually become a source of blessing and good fortune for you. But this healer didn't have that tradition. She had a different tradition where it was like, we need to send them away or whatever. But yeah.
That's
So
interesting.
we're getting to the hour, about 5 minutes.
Hold on, Anthony. Real quick. My Irish grandfather grew up in Somerville, Mass.
Oh, wow.
I know.
And I live in Somerville, New Jersey.
Right?
Sam and I always talk about that.
Did he believe in fairies or anything?
My grandfather, he did. Yeah.
He did. Oh, okay.
We would go out into the woods all the time, and he would always talk about actually, it's interesting that we talk about trolls. He would tell us about the trolls under the bridges in the woods. And he would tell us about lights and leprechauns and like all that kind of stuff. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, he did. He definitely did.
That's great. We really got to.
Yeah, we want to make sure that we talk about what's happening.
How can we get your book? How can the audience know where to get your book? And any events coming up?
Loved it.
New York Fairies. I have a class in Newburgh. If any coming up in March 16th, if anyone is in the Newburgh area and wants to come along. But yeah, it's the New England Fairies, New York Fairies, and then it's on Amazon, Arcadia Publishing website, or a lot of independent bookstores and Barnes and Noble. So,
okay, great. So, and I see you have an event coming up.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, in Maryland, Baltimore.
Ooh.
I don't know. That's going to be fun. Yeah, I don't know if tickets are available or not.
That's cool.
And then do you have a website, Andrew?
Yeah, fairiesofnewengland.com. I kind of post blogs and stuff that I didn't get to put in the books. I put in there, fairiesofnewengland.com.
Okay.
And look at the Fairies of Northern Appalachia.
Yeah, I'm
Sorry,
excited for that one.
What were you going to say? I bet you get people...
I bet you get people emailing you all the time about their own fairy experiences.
I kind of do actually. I'm so stupid. I should have got a notebook and recorded everything that people told me, and I haven't done it, and now it kind of feels too late.
It'll be there when you need it.
Yeah.
Start tonight.
Thanks, Tara.
Thank you so much. I mean, so much for being here. I'm really glad that you agreed to come back. I know you didn't feel well.
Yeah, thanks for having me. And sorry about last week. Yeah.
Don't even. We were all. I didn't have a voice. Everybody was happy because I couldn't speak. No, I'm kidding because I talked a lot. My husband was like, no, it was really, really fun tonight. So cool. Your books are great. Loved them.
Thank you.
Highly recommend. Guys, and check out his blog, fairiesofnewengland.com, right?
Yeah.
Jenny, want to announce the weekend? What's going on Saturday?
Oh, Saturday?
Mm-hmm.
What's going on Saturday?
Pre-recorded show?
We are still showing pre-recorded shows of our show since we are on episode, 68 now? We started from the beginning on Saturday evenings, 8 to 10 p.m. We're re-showing from the beginning for those of people who joined us in the middle. You can start over. And it's been going well.
Yeah. So, yeah.
Thanks for the announcement, Jenny.
Thank you.
I'm sorry? Okay.
Great announcement. Andrew, thank you for coming. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you so much.
I know
it was great.
Kim and Jenny, they did a lot of research and reading your books and everything.
Yeah, thank you so much.
They
More
did
than
the researchers.
Great.
You probably sound Kim. It sounds like you know more about fairies than I do, though. Like with the whole like you have your grandfather and like my real it's limited. I'm very much books, aren't I? I'm a bookish person.
Right.
Same.
You are too, yeah.
Oh yeah, yeah.
I love it. Well,
We
maybe
are
Jenny
a-
Jump. We need to all meet up at
Jenny
Jenny Jump.
That would be
yes.
great. It's
Let's
such a
do
Although
it.
nobody better say Jenny Jump to me.
Yeah.
Because it's scary.
It might be a little scary, but it's right off
Yeah.
the road. So it's so easy to get to. You don't have to go hiking anywhere. It's right off the road.
Okay.
Very easy access.
If you're in the area, we should have a meetup at Jenny Jump for us. I would
All right.
really
Very
love
cute.
awesome.
With that, we got the 2-hour mark right now.
Oh my
Okay.
goodness.
We have
Okay.
to say, I want to say thank you, Andrew, for showing up.
Thank you,
It was
Andrew.
great. Thank you for Sam for popping in. That was great. That he
Yeah,
popped in
thanks,
and said
Sam.
hello.
Mhm.
I want to thank the audience. The audience was great tonight. Everybody was so interested, and it was a great night. I thought it was a great show. So we have to end the show sometime tonight. I'm sorry. Um,
No, I
so
know.
I just want to let everybody know, if you want to go look for fairies or ghosts or anything, you got to be safe doing it because you want to look for ghosts or fairies or be a ghost, not be a ghost. I just screwed that one up, but you
That's
want
okay. You don't want to be a ghost.
you want to look for ghosts, not be a ghost. Okay. I want to thank everybody for showing tonight and hopefully stop by Saturday to see one of our past shows. Well, I think we're on show 4 now. So thank you and ciao.
Good
from
night.
me.
Good night, everyone.
Good
Thanks
night,
for watching.
everybody.
Thank
Thank
you. Good
you.
night.
Good night.
Hey, how you doing?